Hey everyone, welcome to the Tom's Hardware Podcast for today, January 23rd, 2024. As always, I'm Tom's Hardware Editor-in-Chief Abram Pilch, joined by Associate Editor Les Pounder and our very special guests, David Booth and Mike Horn from Pi Wars, here to talk to us about the world's leading Raspberry Pi competition, which is coming up again this spring. How are you guys doing?
Oh, we're getting there. We've got lots and lots of communications done, and we've just put spectator tickets online, and yeah, we've been marshalling the troops, as it were.
So, um, so when is the next Pi Wars, and how can people attend?
20th and 21st of April. It's in Cambridge in the UK, and people can go to piwars.org and have a look there, and there's a button to click to get spectator tickets.
Fan- Fantastic! This sounds like a blast. For those who haven't been following along as we have, can you briefly explain what Pi Wars is?
Dave, do you want to do that?
Yeah, so Pi Wars is a non-combative robot competition or non-destructive, I should say, robot competition, where the entrants are challenged to complete certain tasks. So this year we have autonomous and remote control. So you can choose to do quite a lot of them either autonomous completely, so let the robot do everything that it can on its own without any sort of interruption from the user, or they can try to do things by remote control with, like a PS3 or PS4 controller, things like that. We've got things where you're trying to pick things up, find places where they should go. You've got to navigate certain routes. You've got to find ways out of things. And each year has a different theme. This one is Disaster Zone. This one is actually the one that we were supposed to have in early 2020. Is it, Mike?
Yep.
So yes, we have managed to actually get this one in, which is great. I'm quite happy about that. And we are doing things where we're trying to challenge people to actually build robots to compete in these tasks. So the robots can vary from sort of different shapes, sizes, whether it's a store-bought kit that someone has sort of bought and sort of written some code to actually make it work, or all the way up to sort of complete custom sort of 3D printed or sort of mechanically built chassis that they then sort of put other sensors on and got things like that. The main proviso is that the brains of the robot must be a Raspberry Pi of some form. This year is slightly different. We have allowed the newer Pico sort of style, or the RP2040 chips, to actually sort of be used in the robotics competition, because previous years we've basically just said it's sort of standard Raspberry Pi based computers. Obviously, when the Pi Zero came out, we sort of allowed those because they're just a sort of a smaller form factor. But obviously, since the Pico came out, which is a slightly different sort of form factor, slightly different sort of operating system in the way that it works, we weren't sure. This year we have actually sort of brought them in so that people can, if they want to, they can use sort of Picos or other sort of custom sort of boards with the official Raspberry Pi RP2040 chip on them. So they can still do their custom boards if they want to, or buy boards that are made by other manufacturers that use the RP2040 chip.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Very cool. So it's non-combative, this whole event, basically. So why is that? Why do we not want combat with robots?
Yeah, mostly because the challenges can happen in any order. So we have this massive timetable, and different teams compete in different challenges at different times. So what we didn't want was for them to be bashing each other to bits and then not be able to do the rest of the challenges later.
That's a fair point. Is there anything ethical about it? So like with Robot Wars back in the late 90s, we're all of that era. Sat here now.
Yeah, we didn't want the kids to go home crying because their robot had been destroyed. Basically, that's part of it as well.
Yeah. There is a slight sort of combative element to it with the Pi Noon that we also run, which is balloon popping. So basically you have an arena where you have 2 robots and each of them has a balloon or a certain number of balloons, and they have a pin. So you've got to pop the other person's balloon before they pop yours. It is a lot harder than it sounds. It's a lot of fun. I've actually, as a competitor, I've actually competed in that several times. It's quite stressful, but it is a lot of fun to actually get in. And if you do actually get quite far into that, it's quite rewarding. Yeah.
Yeah, Colin in the chat just says, "Oh, the adults. I'd be crying if I took my robot home in bits."
Yep.
Yeah.
To be honest, Colin, completely agree with you, mate. Yeah, that would happen
Yeah.
to me. I'd be crying.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, you don't want to get your robot destroyed, especially. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this robot did actually compete, and in one of the obstacle courses, there's supposed to be a little sort of seesaw thing that you're supposed to drive up and down, and I decided to go at it sort of full send and rammed.
Right.
Hmm.
Oh,
Yeah,
great.
so it is non-combative, but it's non-destructive. They
Non-destructive.
they have combat, but it's non-destructive. That doesn't mean to say that some robots haven't come off worse. I mean, we have had a couple of robots start smoking, which is always a bit worrying. But fortunately, they got it outside quickly, so that's good.
Yeah, definitely.
This actually on that this year, because obviously the robots are built. Basically, every single robot is completely unique. They're all built differently. They were all powered differently. So obviously, some of them will work on just sort of standard sort of AA batteries. Others will be using things like USB power banks and stuff like that. The more advanced people, the intermediate to advanced people, are probably using things like lipos. If you are going to be using lipo, we do require that they are not charged indoors at the event now. That is a new rule for this year, I believe. I think it isn't, Mike.
It is, yeah.
So they can't. We will have a charging tent outside, which will be sort of monitored, and they'll be making sure that people stay with their robots when they're charging them. Obviously, if you do charge a lipo, then you will need a sort of a fireproof safe. This is just sort of an extra level of safety precaution, really. And obviously, when you're using them as well, you should use those little sort of lipo. My camera's blurring it out, but there's a little lipo sort of battery monitor. So it tells you if the battery's getting a bit low. It'll sort of beep at you quite loudly to make sure that you're aware of what's going on. So, but yeah, there's a variety of different ways that you can run these things, and we're trying to make sure that everybody's happy, everybody's safe, and that having a good time.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, that leads me on to it's a nice segue actually. So, I mean, how do you plan an event of this scale in 2024? I mean, we've got the health and safety aspects, we've got fires with lipo batteries, we've got COVID regulations these days. How do you sit down and plan something of this size and not go mad?
It takes forever. We started this time, I think it was July that we started, and then we opened up applications in September, I think it was. So we sort of go through it, and we have people applying and making sure that we think they will actually get to the event. But apart from that, we have a team management app which we use to send out communications and get feedback from the teams to let us know how they're getting on. We also have a lot of spreadsheets, lots and lots of spreadsheets. This year, we're asking as many people as possible to volunteer to help. So you can volunteer to be a judge and/or a marshal. And when the applications come in, they come into a spreadsheet, which we then have to go through and just contact them all as we go. And then there's timetabling everything. It's quite a task to sort of marshal that number of people.
Can I just add that we're talking about spreadsheets and organizing apps. Those are the apps that I think you and Tim have both custom written ourselves. It's not something we've had to find. We've had to write these things ourselves. So there's a lot of work that goes into that, and just the organizing.
Blimey.
Yeah, Tim's got an app that. So on the day, each judge has a score sheet per team per challenge.
Yeah.
So we do it on bits of paper because it's easier than keeping all these tablets charged. And so all the paper comes back to Tim, and he then enters them into this custom built app that he's got, and it totals it up as you go.
Yeah.
So we've got that, and we've got the team management app as well, which helps me to communicate with the teams. As Dave said, we had to custom write everything, and Tim's actually, I think he's written the scoring app twice now because he learned each time that he did it.
Mm-hmm.
He learned from the previous year
to
get it better, because the first year we added up everything manually, and we had everybody sitting there for an hour while I painstakingly went through and added it up. It was painful.
It will be, yeah. But another aspect of the event is going to be the community. So in the UK, we're quite lucky. We've got a massive Raspberry Pi community. But what's the robotics community like in the UK? Is it big? Is it small? Is it everywhere?
Yeah, there is a reasonable robotics community.
Strong,
Wasn't there? I think I recently highlighted to our little organising team about a group that was in the news, wasn't there, Mike?
Yeah, Cambridge Local News picked up on a team that I think it might have been First Lego League or that kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's the big. I think the biggest robot community is probably the First Lego League because it has the Lego brand behind it, and I think the Scouts get involved in that and that kind of thing. But we're pretty privileged. Yeah, we're pretty privileged in Pi Wars because we've got all the Raspberry Pi community behind us. And it's a mixture of what we call the old guard, people who have been there from the start, but also a lot of new people each year sort of joining us and saying, how do we get involved?
Very cool. Colin's back in the chat. How many different countries are participating this year?
I think it's about 15.
15.
If you count England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland separately, which I tend to. It's about 15 because we've got people coming from, was it Hong Kong are coming from this year? Malaysia, I think Nigeria, there's a couple of teams coming from.
Wow.
We've got
there's a lot.
I think it's Finland. We've got a team coming from.
Yes.
Yeah, they're all over the place, really.
And when everyone's in the actual venue, is it a good atmosphere, or is everyone secretly guarding their robots? Like, get away!
No. So speaking as a former competitor, whatever you want to call it, competitor. That's the word. No, it's completely the opposite. There is a very open attitude, and if someone's struggling, if they've lost, like if they've broken their robot, or they're struggling with part finding or fixing, generally everybody will chip in. I've definitely seen in the past where someone has got like this sort of Pi-Heart style controller. If theirs is broken, they've dropped it, it's not working. One of the other team I know that they've lent them their own personal controller for the event, for the particular challenge they were doing, just to get them up and running, because it's those ones are little USB sort of wireless transmitter you can hot swap and get them up and running. And I've seen that kind of stuff in the past, where basically if the person just walked off with it, the other team who lent it wouldn't be able to go on. But no, it's a very, very open, very, very friendly attitude in there. Everybody's willing to they want to make sure that if they do win, they want to make sure that the other teams have competed at their best. So they're more than happy to help out.
That's good time, because big events like this, a positive atmosphere is what sells the event, really. Everyone enjoys themselves, everyone has fun, everyone learns something as well at the end of the day, which is great.
Yeah, we try and keep everything really upbeat on the day, because it is stressful. You've got to hit certain times in certain places, and sometimes you're just not ready, and you sort of have to say, can we come back in half an hour or whatever? And you say, not half an hour, maybe 2 hours. You can come back at the end and do it then. So we try and be flexible around sort of times and places. Obviously, if somebody's scheduled to be at the end, they can't have another 2 hours then. But in general, we try and be fairly free and easy with timings. Yeah. And as Danny says, there's also a Discord server where everybody can ask questions, and get answers and get help in how to start. Even we've had a we've had a few teams sort of get started by asking questions on the Discord server and just networking with other teams.
Very cool. So how many years has it been running now?
This is the 10th anniversary.
Oh wow, happy anniversary.
Yeah,
10 years.
Yeah, 2014 we kicked it off.
Yeah.
We've tried to do it every year. We had a couple of gaps. One year we actually moved the date, so we sort of skipped 18 months rather than a year.
Yeah.
And during the pandemic, we had a couple of virtual ones where people built their own courses and recorded themselves doing the challenges.
That
Yeah,
leads on quite nicely, actually, to about the courses. What are the courses like? Are they just bits of wood stuck around the car park, or is it actually proper built stuff?
Dave, do you want to fill us in?
So talking about this year and previous years, we've had, obviously they're all inside, so it's weatherproof. But the courses are custom built by us. At least the previous years. This year, we've actually managed to get some help from the community actually to help us build certain courses. They are generally made out of wood, hardboard, painted, and sort of decorated quite nicely as well. We've tried to make sure that everything is as robust as possible. So I think this is the first year that we've actually sort of suggested a weight restriction on the robot. Where just in case, because there may or may not be certain elements that, you know, may need some structural support for whatever reason. Try not to give too much away. So I should mention, so some of the courses, everything is explicitly sort of documented about, and some of the courses are deliberately vague so that you will have to make sure that your robot is able to compete with a wide variety of challenges that it may encounter on the way. Like the obstacle course is always quite a good one. But we've had for course design and building on those ones, we've had sort of obstacle courses in the past with big rotating turntables that you have to drive on in one direction and come off on another. So we've had that kind of stuff. We've had travelators. We've had movable courses that your robot has to sort of push things out the way to build a bridge and go up and over and things like that. That's sort of past years. Obviously, the obstacle course is one of the ones that we can't really say too much about this year, but we've put a lot of effort into building these courses over the years in this one. And a few of the others who have helped in that as well have put a lot of effort into making those and illuminating them as well with LEDs where necessary and push buttons and everything.
So do we know, I mean, obviously you had to have entries by October, so I don't know if it was too soon. Did anybody, and do we know if anyone is using a Raspberry Pi 5 in this year's event?
Actually, I don't know, but I think they might be. Of course, powering
almost guarantee
is very different. But I think we've sort of said Raspberry Pi 5s are of course allowed, but powering them is more of a challenge than powering even a 4. So
yeah, when you're working off limited sort of battery storage, because obviously they can't be powered by the mains. They can't have a cable tray connected before. You must have your own onboard power.
Yeah.
Then obviously the Pi 5, if it's a little bit more power hungry, you're not going to be able to make as many runs and stuff like that to test things out or actually on the day do the runs. Whereas normally a USB battery bank would get you probably a decent percentage of the day, if not all of it. I mean, a LiPo, the sort of standard sort of size, you could probably get a full day, if not 2 days, out of sort of actual running if you're turning it off in between events and stuff like that. But yeah.
Right.
I've seen, I think in past years, the moment that like the Pi Zero came out, I think we had people change their designs to make it fit with a Pi Zero and stuff like that. So I would be very surprised if there weren't any Pi 5s in this event.
Right. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's not the best for power consumption compared to prior, but I guess if you're doing anything that involves AI or object recognition or whatever, then you might be getting some benefits there.
Yeah,
so
anything involving cameras and vision, the Pi 5 does give you just that little bit of extra grunt.
we do have a lot of vision-based autonomous challenges, and I've known in the past competitors and myself to help improve, because it's all about sort of frame rates. Basically, you've got a camera that's able to do like 60 frames a second. However, you've got to process those. You've got to look at each image and you've got to recognize something, work out what to do, and then move to the next frame. So it's all about how many frames you can process, and sometimes it can take 1 or 2 seconds on like a big sort of 1920 sort of full HD style image, whereas in previous years, I've known people to reduce the resolution down to like a 320 by 240, because you're only really looking at like basic colors at those previous courses. You're not looking at sort of fine detail. So you want to reduce it down to get like 30 frames a second so that you can comfortably get the robot to move forward and not miss something. But I'm guessing with the Pi 5, you'll be able to do that a lot quicker. So you'll be able to have either increased resolution and be able to be a bit more accurate, or you'll be able to get it sort of buttery smooth and be able to go like almost full pelt and not have to slow down. And so speed wise, accuracy wise, it's all an improvement.
Right. Well, that makes sense. I mean, it's just be curious to see, obviously, what the latest, people incorporating the latest technology into their projects. I think it's going to be awesome for folks to see. So obviously, too late for new people to participate, but lots of time for people to still come and watch and enjoy the show. What are some of the things that you can do if you come as an observer?
Well, of course, you can come and see all the robots run the challenge courses, and there's 2 days worth as well. So there's schools and young teams on the first day, and then adults and family teams and partners and that kind of thing on the Sunday. So you can see those. That we're also hoping to have quite a few people doing show and tell. So bringing along robot and Pi projects to the event so that people can ask them questions, like a jam, really, in that respect. Cool. We've also got a marketplace, so you can come along and come and buy Pi bits and see what's out there. Absolutely.
Ooh, why are you taking American money? This is an. I
was going to ask that. That's.
I don't think
because
they do
only got
there.
Hang on.
Yeah, where's your pound?
There you go.
Okay.
But yeah, so we've got Pimoroni are going to come along. I think we've got Kidtronics as well, and the Pi Hut might be coming. So yeah, it's going to be a smaller marketplace to other years, just simply because we've had fewer sponsors this year. But yeah, it should be a lot of fun anyway. There's certainly plenty to watch, and you can talk to the teams if they're not too stressed. So yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Come along for a couple of hours. Come along for the whole weekend. It is fun.
That's awesome. That sounds like a blast. Speaking of a blast of heat, Les, you have a new a really interesting product that you've been testing. You want to show everyone?
I can indeed, yeah. So I've had this in my possession for a month exactly now, and it's all been hush hush. So I'm going to just switch to over camera so you can see what I'm talking about. So you buy a Raspberry Pi 5, you get the active cooler. You just have to. So there you go, the active cooler, and it does a fantastic job keeping the Pi cool. Let's keep it in shot. You've got the official Pi case, which has a fan in it. It doesn't sound too bad either. That does a good job. But what about if you want the ultimate cooling for your Raspberry Pi 5? Well, for that, you need something like this. This is a water cooling rig from 52Pi with C Studios. But there's the cooling block. There's the tubes. And I can't get this in shot properly, so I'm going to have to do a bit of creative camera work, and I've also tidied part of my desk so you can see it. There's the cooling unit. That's a pump and fan and radiator pumping distilled water into this cooling block here to keep that Pi 5 cool. How cool? Well, at idle, a Pi 5 with the active cooler, so that thing there, will use about 50 degrees C it'll operate at. With this, if I go to the capture and excuse the softness of the image, we're about 25 degrees C. So we've halved the temperature at idle already, which is just amazing. So it's going to use VCG now to measure the temp accurately. So we're at 26.8 degrees C. I'm going to run a stress test. In the background is STUI, which is like a stress testing tool. But VCG, ENCMD, I don't know how we're going to pronounce that in a catchy way. That's the absolute official way of monitoring the temperature of the Pi and also the speed of the CPU. So we're using that as the exact figure. So I've got a stress test for 1 minute. It's going to do all 4 cores. And it's going to stress them out to get to a nice high temperature. So I'm going to swap to this window. And we can see it's gone up to 39.5 now under stress, which is, it's getting warmer. But the Pi 5 under stress with the active cooler, 59.3 it gets to, top temperature. So if we go lower than that, then this could be worth it. So let's keep an eye on that temperature then. And 43.3. There you go. It's like watching paint dry this bit, isn't it, boys? 41.1, so it's getting cooler. Doing a cracking job. So you're right now thinking, this is fantastic, Les. I need this to keep my Pi 5 cool. You have got access to GPIO. You can plug in all your bits and pieces you need to. There's no obstructions, but I want to buy it. How much do I pay for it? Here's the kicker. That's $120. That's a serious bit of money for something which is many times larger than Raspberry Pi 5. I mean, it's huge, the cooling system on this. I'm going to measure it properly and get a volume so we get a rough idea for the review.
So the better question is, why do you need it to be that cool? Because if it doesn't throttle, does it really matter whether it's running at 59 or 39 degrees? I mean, throttling's 80 or 85, right? So
yeah,
if it doesn't throttle, why should you care?
Well, the official active cooler, the fan kicks in at about 50 degrees C.
Right.
And when you're really stressing it, yeah, you can hit that. That's no problem. But as long as you're not hitting 80, I mean 60, 70, it'll just sit there and work. And that fan will keep it cool. No problem. So this is really for the extreme overclockers out there who really want to push a Pi. So what I've not said in this, I should have said before to quantify it, the Pi that's running right now with this test is running at 3 gig and the 1 gigahertz overclock of the GPU.
Right.
So it's running at full pelt. That's as fast as you can go. Some people say you can go at 3.1 gig. You can't. The Pi will just stop at 3 gig. Anything after that is just false readings. And I've got that official.
So why bother? Like, why bother spending more money on cooling if you can't go any faster by doing so?
Exactly. I mean, the adage for the Pi community is, because we can.
Right. I mean, listen, I always say that the Tom's Hardware slogan should be "Do it because you can, not because you should," and this is a great example of that. But it's doing it at great. But on the other hand, it's $120. So like, would I do I enjoy the fact that somebody came out with this and we got to test it? Yes. And I appreciate their innovation in doing it. On the other hand, I don't see how the everyday Pi user, or even the not everyday, the extreme Pi user, would benefit from spending the money on this. They're getting something that's very large and expensive, where they could get a part that costs a fraction of the money and is much smaller and get the same result. I mean, I guess you'd have bragging rights about how cool your processor is running, but I don't know about you, but I don't feel like I need to brag about how cool my processor is running. I could brag about how fast it was running. Like, that would be, if I could get it to to overclock to 3.5 or 4 or something, like, then that's something. But I don't know about you guys, about whether you feel like, wow, I can brag, I'm running 10 degrees cooler than I have to run. Like, we deal with this all the time with PC CPUs, and like, there's a whole competitive set out there of people who use liquid nitrogen to
Yep.
to cool their CPUs, but they don't do it just to say that they're below zero. They do it because they're able to push the speed to an unheard of amount, like 7 gigahertz on a 5 gigahertz processor or something like that. Like if you could do that, then this would be more useful, I feel like. But
Yeah.
there's no way to go above 3, is there? Is there like some kind of thing you can disable to like endanger your processor to try it?
No, from the official word I've had is 3 gigahertz is your limit. That's it. Anything else is just false reading. So software such as S2E will give a false reading. So it reads the config file. So if you say to the config.txt file, CPU clock speed is 3.5 gig, it'll read that and go, right, you're at 3.5 gig. But if you use VCG ENCND, we've got to think of a cooler name for that. It reports the actual real CPU speed. So,
right.
there
I
you
wonder
go.
if there's a custom firmware that someone could make or get that would override any protections to get you above 3.
Possibly, but
I don't know. Have we asked the Pi Foundation if there's like a way of like getting rid of the protections at the risk of destroying your Pi?
I've spoken to the hardware team, and the answer was it's 3 gig and that's it. But
Okay.
I've not asked the explicit question of, could you invalidate your warranty and just do it for the lols?
Yeah, I mean, so theoretically, if that was possible, then maybe this would have more purpose. I don't know. What do you guys think, David and Mike?
One of the things that I can see there is that you are separating the cooling from the actual device. So in theory, if you are working in a much warmer environment, whether that's in a warmer climate or that's just you're in a building that has heating for whatever reason to warm up an area, you can have the Pi in the area that you're operating, and you can sort of separate out the cooling to a different compartment outside. That's one potential benefit on that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if $120 is too much to pay for. It looks cool.
I mean,
Right.
$6
It does
for
look
the
cool.
active cooler.
How many things have we got? Blinky lights that we paid for that look cool. I've got a lot.
Yeah, it's very bulky for looks cool. Like I could totally see, for example, did we get one of those towers? Did they come out with one of those towers yet? I think
the 52 Pi towers.
the 52 Pi
they've
tower.
got one. Yeah.
So like I could see that more because that's not quite as obtrusive, but it does look really cool. No pun intended. Well, both. It does look like it's a good cooler. I could totally see somebody getting one of those 52 Pi towers, but having a whole separate apparatus like that with the radiator, like the other interesting thing is you said distilled water. Did you put the distilled water in, or did it come with it?
I put it in. I went to Amazon and I bought some distilled water.
So what happens if you use coolant instead?
No idea.
I wonder if you can get it low. I mean, just for the lulls. I wonder because when we do CPU cooling on a PC, we don't use distilled water. We use special chemical coolants. I wonder if there's a coolant that would do an even better job than distilled water and get you even lower.
We'll have a go at that. We'll also do something a bit stupid as well, and put Dr. Pepper through it, or other drinks are available.
We could try it, but that probably you'd be careful about cleaning it because I think that would get sugar stuck or something. I don't know, but like various we don't do enough about this probably, but open loop cooling on a PC, people pick different coolants. They get custom colors for it. Forget water. They get them in. I mean, it's a whole industry. So I wonder if you could get even better efficiency, but nevertheless, only to the end of saying that you did, only for the bragging rights, not for actual bragging rights about the CPU speed or even performance. But it's really neat. We look forward to seeing the full review. Thank you so much to David and Mike for joining us. Please, everybody, go check out the Pi Wars website. And if you're free on that weekend, I really recommend, and you're anywhere near Cambridge, I really recommend, which is what, the 20th of April? Is that
That's right. Yeah, 20th and 21st.
20th and 21st of April this year. Do go by. It looks like it's going to be so much fun. And we look forward to seeing you all next week on the 30th at, when is Les's 4 terabyte NVMe drive on Pi 5 write up coming out? I got to answer this question.
That should be out. That should be part of the NVMe base review, which is already out.
Yes, Tech, yes. Did we test a 4 terabyte on that? I wasn't sure if we tested. I don't remember if we tested a 4 terabyte. We definitely tested
we tested 4 on the NVMe base because that was the only one I could get working.
There you go. So yes, that is a highly recommended product and much more affordable. Anyway, so do check us out next week. We will be here at the usual time of 7 p.m. UK time, 2 p.m. US Eastern time, and we look forward to seeing you all then. Bye, everyone.